campers. I hope you're enjoying your time. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Kitty Mervine, and I've written the book Fairy Tales Fairly Told, and each of you is going to get a copy of this book. I'd just like to say a few words about why it's great to be a skeptic and skeptic child and teenager. You can be at some place like this spooky cemetery, and you're not afraid of anything. You know that things like ghosts and zombies and all that are just fun entertainment. You're not, oh, hi. Hey, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to my friend. This is Noah Whippy.
Hi, how's it going?
Noah is the illustrator of the book Fairy Tales Fairly Told. And, Noah, would you like to tell us a little bit about your usual kind of artwork?
Normally I draw kind of spooky and creepy stuff, comic books, stuff like that. But Kitty asked me to do this for her, and I thought, you know, it's a good challenge as an artist too, plus it's something I care about.
And I'd also like to say that next year, Noah and I hope to have a book written that has a little bit more of a spooky, zombie, fun feel. And of course, as skeptics, we can enjoy it as entertainment because we know in real life there's a lot of other things to be worried about besides zombies and ghosts and aliens.
Yeah, but something definitely more up my alley.
Hi, this is my home in Antrim, New Hampshire, and it's on Lake Franklin Pierce. And I thought I'd share with you our own Lake Munster, because of course every lake has a monster. A couple of years ago, people reported seeing an alligator in Lake Franklin Pierce. And our climate is a little too cold for alligators, so I joined a skeptic team of investigators, and I would go out in my kayak twice a day and patrol the lake and try and see if I could see the alligator. And the interesting part is the mystery was solved. It wasn't an alligator, but it was a kind of fish called a pike that's 6 feet long. That's as long as our kayaks were. So people were seeing something very unusual, and since they weren't familiar with a pike, but they were pretty sure they knew what an alligator looked like, they just sort of assumed it was an alligator. The nice part is that everyone was happy in the end. People were no longer making fun of the people that thought they had seen an alligator because they really had seen something very unusual. And it was just a really sort of fun mystery to have and to solve. Okay, so the story I'm going to read today sort of goes along with that. It's called Utterly Impossible, and it was based on an investigation of the Loch Ness Monster by Joe Nickell. Once upon a time, there were 3 otters. These otters were brothers, and they lived in Scotland. Now, usually otters do not have names. They just call each other Otter. But these 3 Scottish otters all had names. That's because when they went swimming together, they would hear people crying out, "Oh, look, it's a Loch Ness Monster!" The otters, who lived in a large lake called Loch Ness, Loch means lake in Scotland, assumed that the humans were calling them by name. "Ach," said Loch, "humans are a wee bit daft, but if they want to give us a name like Loch, I suppose it's all right." Ness and Munster thought their names were a wee bit daft also, but having their own names did make things much easier. They remembered when all the otters were named Otter. It made things very confusing. One otter would say, "Otter," and all the others would answer, "Yes." Now if Loch wanted to talk to Ness and not Munster, he would just say, "Ness." If Munster wanted to talk to Loch, he would just say, "Loch." What the otters didn't know was that the humans were not calling the otters by names. Instead, the humans were confused. Otters, when they swim, often swim in a row. So Loch would be in the lead, and Ness and Munster would follow behind. Usually Loch would poke his head up to keep an eye on where they were going, and Ness and Munster could just keep their heads down following Loch and trusting he knew where they were going. Also, the Scottish otter brothers liked to swim early in the morning when it was foggy out. Sometimes they also liked to swim about in the early evening hours. They liked to be on the lake when it was quiet, without a lot of dangerous boats. One day, Loch, Ness, and Munster decided to go on vacation to the United States to visit their cousins. Their cousins lived in Lake Champlain, which is part of the state of Vermont. The Scottish otters flew across the Atlantic and met their cousins at the airport. Loch Ness and Munster were quick to relate how they had real, if slightly daft, names. The American otters just laughed and said, "Come with us." Soon all the otters were having a lovely time around Lake Champlain. The American otters then said, "Swim in a line and see what happens." The otters all made a long swimming line, and soon people on the shore were shouting, "It's Champy! It's a really long, giant Champy!" The American otters turned to their Scottish cousins and said, "See, we have names." Also, the Scottish otters thought the names Champ and Pete were wonderful. "I wonder if all lake otters have been named by humans," Champ said. They all decided for their next vacation they would fly up to visit their second cousins in Canada at Lake Okanagan and find out if they also had names. The end. Well, I hope everyone enjoys Fairy Tales Fairly Told, and I hope you also have a lot of fun making up your own fairy tales fairly told.